Hi, friends. Welcome to Season 2 of Bar at the Conference. I'm your host, Derek Scott III. Today's episode is with Reverend Caleb S.G. Dormah. Caleb is an ordained elder in the Liberia Annual Conference, where he serves as the Conference Director of Ministry to At-Risk Youth. He also serves as the West Central Conference Regional Coordinator for the United Methodist Africa Forum. Caleb offers a compelling witness and perspective as a proud United Methodist in Liberia. In this interview, Caleb shares his personal story of growing up and embracing his call to ministry, and the ways his unique family structure has shaped how he thinks about church and community. You'll also hear his heart for the UMC, why he believes regionalization is our best next step, and his passion to see our denomination remain united on the African continent and worldwide, in spite of our differences. I was grateful for Caleb's willingness to join me on the podcast. And while you'll hear some background noise every now and then, this was an incredibly helpful and powerful conversation. So friends, grab that notebook, that choice beverage, and let's listen to this really great interview with Reverend Caleb S.G. Dormah. Reverend Caleb Dormah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I know that it's middle of the day and a bit hot where you are in Liberia. It's first thing in the morning here in Jacksonville, Florida, and it's cool. And I got my coffee and I'm ready to go. So I'm doing good. Could you tell me let's start at the beginning, how you became a United Methodist Christian, God's prevenient grace acting in your life to bring you into our church?
I've heard a lot of testimonies about other United Methodist ministers who go back generations. I don't. My great-grandfather was a warrior chief. He learned the art of war in a traditional way, and he passed that on to my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather passed it on to my grandfather. But because wars were subsiding in the part of the world that I come from, he did not become a warrior chief, even though he learned war science of his time. He only became a chief. And I remember going home many days and sitting down at my grandfather's feet, and the elders and chiefs from all around in the villages will come, and my grandfather will talk to them about the rules of life, about harmony, keeping harmony in the family and all of that. My father, at the same time, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and all were doing this, I had an uncle who was living on the fringe of town because he was a leper. They made him to live outside of the community. One day he heard that there was a leprosarium, a leprosy colony built some miles away from the village. He took 11 days to walk from there to the leprosarium. That leprosarium was built by the people called Methodists. He went there, he stayed there, and he got healed. When he got healed, he decided that he will not go home just like that. He will go and learn how to give the good news about his healing. He went into ministry. He became a pastor. But as soon as he became a pastor, he went back to the village. He called his younger brother, my father. He said, come and go to school. My father followed him. And my father went to the Methodist school, graduated, and went to the Methodist nursing school. There he met a beautiful woman, and two of them got married and came forth Caleb. You see, I'm saying all this to say I was not meant to be. I was one of those people who really was not meant to be. It took leprosy to bring me to where I am. This is how God, grace, found me.
Yeah.
Through a sick leper, through an unwanted leper. I came through that way. And when I was born, I started school at the United Methodist School until I came to 4th grade. Then I migrated to a Catholic school until I finished high school. Went to the government university, and then after graduation, I went to the Baptist seminary. It didn't sound that smooth. There were a lot of trouble going through all of that. But I was a United Methodist at heart, and I came back and told the church, here I am, use me. But this story is saying about how grace formed me and grace brought me under the cross. Yeah. How the foot of the cross is where we can all find the mercy and grace. He took a leper and cleansed the leper to find someone like me. This is how I became a United Methodist Church pastor. And blessedly for me, through the years, I have served I have pastored large churches, many large churches. And I've also pastored smaller churches, though. I've served on boards and committees and commissions. I served one time as the director of youth and young adult ministries. Today, I serve as the director of at-risk youth ministry. I am the United Methodist envoy to the ghetto by the Liberia Annual Conference. Drug addiction is a serious thing here, and this is where I now serve. My father was a nurse. When he graduated, though he married my wife, many things happened and there was a divorce. My father became a polygamist, and he served his life. Coming to the last 10 years of his life, he had some convictions. My father, the polygamist, established a church. Look, you don't understand what I'm saying. I have 41 sisters. Did you hear me?
41?
41 sisters.
Yeah, I hear that.
I am not counting my brothers because we boys are more. Mm-hmm. He started a Methodist church on his porch. Mm. The first set of deaconesses that were there were his wives. This church grew from a little community of people. It is now about 250 persons in that church. He even used this polygamist. I'm not condoning it, but he even used him.
Yeah.
To glorify his own name. Mm-hmm. I come from not only my grandfathers, my great-grandfathers, my great-great-grandfather being warrior chiefs. I come from a polygamous family, yet God has chosen us, plucked us out. To tell you the truth, I got about 8 brothers and sisters who are ministers of the gospel.
What was it like to be in church, to be in a church that really was like essentially your whole family, and how did that witness to your community?
I think a lot of things play in. talking about my grandfather being a warrior chief. My father was supposed to learn the art of being a chief. And when prevailing grace took him away from it and sent him to school, he became a nurse. My father, both in my father and mother's home, there was always room for one more person. I will come from on campus during the vacation and bring 10 of my friends. My brothers would bring theirs, and we will all be together. There was always room for one more person at the table.
Yeah.
My mother will cook and serve a fabulous meal on the table. And when you ask why all this food, we say maybe guests will come. Just maybe a hungry person will come along. So I'm saying there was this heart that God chose to use to build up his own kingdom around us.
Yeah.
We grew up like a community, and we like a family. Like I said, I got a huge family, and people were always being added. So I grew up with things being for a community.
Right.
We ate in a bowl. Maybe 4 or 5 of us joined our food together to eat. We got home. We would spread the mattress down, and 4, 5, 6 of us would just lie down across it. It was a community of people. So we grew, even though we have different mothers. When you see my siblings and I, you won't know the difference because we are close knitted.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are close knitted. Unlike other places where people they'll talk about half brother. There's nothing in my vocabulary called half brothers. I think when I'm in the US or in Europe, that's when I hear it a lot, and it's like, hey, half brother. I don't think in terms of that.
Yeah. So was there a point, I've asked you the question, like, when you heard your call to ministry, but was there a moment that you discerned that not only were you called to ministry, but you were called to ministry in the United Methodist Church? Was there that moment for you, or was it just sort of understood that you were going to serve in the UMC in Liberia?
There may have been a moment because, like I said, I went to Catholic school. I learned catechism. I even spoke to the bishop at that time about my call, and I almost became a Christian brother. But it's a fraternity in the Catholic movement from Ireland. But and then as I went back to the United Methodist Church, I saw that there were things to do with young people. And then I harnessed my call that I was called to young people. I was called not to the pulpit. From the very initial, I knew deep within me that my call was to young people, to help them grow up, grow in their faith. So I worked through Sunday schools. I worked through youth ministry in my local church and in churches around me. And at one point, I would serve Baptist youth camp. I would serve the Methodist youth camp. I would serve the Lutheran camp. I will work with Episcopalians to do their camp. I mean, I knew that I was called to young people, to the point that I even contacted the police to witness, to take care of the children, the juvenile prison at one point. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So there was a time in my life that I did not know I would have served the United Methodist Church per se, but as I went to church and as I saw situations and I worked around it, I definitely knew that my call was to the United Methodist Church to work with young people through it.
Wow. Yeah, and I think that you are. I think you are serving in a space that, as you said, we in the U.S. tend to have more than we need, and where you are, I can't imagine. In fact, let me just ask that. Tell us about ministry in Liberia. Tell us about the ministry context in Liberia, both broadly, but also specifically your work with at-risk youth.
Let me start with this, with a little history of Liberia.
Yeah.
Liberia was founded by free slaves from the U.S. In the 1800s. Our first president was born in Richmond, Virginia. He was a free slave that came to Liberia. Guess what? He was a Methodist.
Oh boy.
Our first. So you see, Methodism and Liberia are tied together in many ways. Our last president was a United Methodist. Is a United Methodist. Our present president is a United Methodist.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of, and it has been like that. Our longest serving president was a United Methodist. The United Methodist Church started in the 1800s. In fact, the story is told that it came on the boat that brought the free slaves. The Liberia Annual Conference is the oldest annual conference in the United Methodist Church outside of the U.S.
Oh, wow.
With that little history said, the United Methodist Church in Liberia, at one point, it was involved with church plant in the Ivory Coast and in Guinea. In fact, as far as Ghana, we've been into that. Yeah, when the refugees went, there were 2 churches that they planted while they were there. The Methodist Church here has done so much, building hospitals, schools. They've made tremendous impact into our social economic growth as a nation. We've also made so much impact into obeying the spirit. In fact, we are the largest denomination in Liberia.
Oh, wow.
We are the largest denomination in Liberia. This is the church that we are with. Serving it, I tell everybody I'm a proud United Methodist. Some years ago, I decided that pulpit, 4 walls could not contain me. Yeah. So, and there was a curse. There was a problem brewing up in Liberia with young people moving into the ghetto, drug addiction becoming a problem, and all of that. Last year, there was a fundraising by the UNFPA and the Ministry of Youth and Sports. We were told that 2 out of every 10 young people are on drugs in Liberia. 20% of the youth population is on drugs. And when I do the calculation, it's almost the whooping number of 700,000 young people on drugs.
Oh my.
The ghetto are getting overcrowded by the time. Caleb, moved into the ghetto some 6 years ago, and started to acquaint himself with the conditions there, started to take some young people out of the ghetto and send them for rehabilitation and so forth. One of them now is back in school and is about to be a nurse. One of them is that graduated from a skill training school, is into refrigeration, and many, many more are there. The ghetto, you will not understand what it is, the level of filth that these children leave home to go live in. Health condition is terrible. One of the things we do is we do medical outreach to them also. We carry a medical team. After our services, we feed them. We do the medical outreach. I mean, I leave my numbers. They call me at all hours to come for people to take them to the clinic. I have to look for money here and there to take them there. In fact, just last week, one of the girls delivered, had a boy. In fact, it's like something that I have to go through every month. About 4 children are being born in the ghetto. And they will call me and I will take them to the hospital and all of that. Again, in the hospital, I mean, in the ghetto, it's such that the ruffians, you will find hardcore criminals, drug addicts, prostitutes, and all of that. So there is always violence. I'm called at all hours that this person got hurt. This person is at the hospital. This person was taken to prison, and I got to communicate. I mean, I got to go in between all of that. The joy of it is that these hardcore criminals, these drug addicts, they allow me into their cycle. They tell me their heart. We sit down, we pray, and we cry together. I know most of them. I mean, I have come to the place where I know now that addiction is an illness. And those addicts, I know they pray sometimes more than we who go to church every day. I mean, they get up, they go to bed at night crying that, Father, take this thing away from me. I mean, it's killing me. But in the morning, when they are feeling their withdrawal syndrome, they go for the next high, so that they're not getting high any longer, but they want to keep stable. Yeah. They are taking it so that they can keep stable instead of going through all the pains from the withdrawal syndrome. Yeah. So I mean, I sympathize with them. I've heard testimonies that I'm like, wow. Parents come to my office and just fall down and cry. My son, who is the smartest in the family, has gone local on drugs. He has moved to the ghetto. Caleb, you need to do something about it. Hey, which ghetto? Then we get out to go. In fact, you sometimes find them and take them to the rehab. The bad thing about it is not many families are able to support the rehab habit. So it put extra burden on me to go out looking for funding to do all of that. Yeah. But this is ministry that I enjoy. This is I don't enjoy. I'm not enjoying their conditions, but I'm enjoying the ministry because the saving grace of God continues to flow, and I'm connecting it. Mayu, I'm saying this. I'm a product of God's saving grace. I was never meant to be, and here I am in the midst of these people who probably have lost their way. And they do think they were not meant to be, that somehow they have lost it all. In fact, the illness has taken over them, that nothing good can come out of them. And I'm there saying to them, or saying to myself, maybe I would have been like this or worse. How can I give up on them? God never did give up on me. Even before my coming to being, he was preparing the way through my uncle that was a leper to get me out there. How can I give up on them? So this is where I am with these people in my ministry. It's a ministry of caring. It's a ministry of giving out grace. It's the ministry of being a channel of God's grace to the world. In fact, it brings me to the mission of the United Methodist Church. Transforming the world.
Yeah.
For Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So inspiring. Gosh, thank you for that. Caleb, can you tell me a little bit about the state of the UMC in Liberia today?
Like United Methodists everywhere, we are at a crossroad. In Liberia, the difficulty we have is that the Wesleyan Covenant Association and the Good News Club have planted the wrong seed in our midst for too long. And the only thing they talk about is homosexuality and disaffiliation. For 3 years, we've been going through that. And we are now saying to them, disaffiliation is not what we need. We will not encourage disaffiliation. We will not do it. In fact, Africa will remain United Methodist. It doesn't matter what they think, what they say. We have resolved that we will remain United Methodist. The Liberia Annual Conference has suffered a lot because the leadership of Africa Initiative, which is aligned with the Wesleyan Covenant Association, proxy for the Global Methodist Church, they keep on propagating the wrong message to our people for the last 3-4 years. And last year, some of us just got tired with their message and said, we don't want to hear this message again. Our people have heard the wrong message for too long. So we've given up ourselves to talk to the people about the unity of the United Methodist Church. And I see that a lot of people are hearing the message. In fact, they wanted to hear it, but somehow we kept silent for too long. And we are going out now apologizing for our silence, and giving out the word to them. So even though we are at a crossroad, I trust and I believe that we will get there. We will get there as a church, as a united church.
Yeah.
A few people might go, trust me, we are working. A few people might go, but it will be an insignificant number. I will not talk about God's children being insignificant, but the number will be so small that in few years, we will sit down and hold the cross and say, come.
Yeah.
Come.
Yeah. Caleb, let me ask this. Were you at the special session of General Conference in 2019?
No, I was not.
Okay.
But I follow it all through.
Yeah. As many of us did. I was on the floor, but many of my colleagues and friends definitely were following. When you got word that the traditional plan passed, what was your kind of response to that? And what was, from your perspective, what was the response in Liberia to the passing of the traditional plan?
Let me first say I'm an African.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly and sincerely believe that marriage is between a man and a woman.
Mm-hmm. And
when we all heard that it passed, Africa celebrated that it passed. The troubling part of it is, in the midst of the celebration, you see, we need to put my presentation into context. It has a cultural context.
Right.
Almost every country in Africa have a law against same-sex marriage and homosexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Our culture does not condone it.
Mm-hmm.
Our context is different. I've sat down in meetings in the US, and when they come to homosexuality, I don't talk. And they will ask me, why are you not talking? You've been contributing to the rest of it. I say my context is different.
Mm-hmm.
In Africa, we don't talk about homosexuality.
Mm-hmm.
This is not our context. They say, what is your context? I said, polygamy. And what? What do you think about commitment? I say, don't bring it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, every culture, because of the diversity that we bring to the table, one culture is suffering from same-sex marriage and homosexuality, and the other one is polygamy. Is any of them right? Is one of them wrong and the other right? Or are both of them wrong? So this brings me to the place. When I talk about regionalization, I don't connect it to same-sex marriage or other things. I connect it to a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Let me just say it this way. Few general conferences ago, the West Africa Central Conference decided that the youth age in the West should be different from the youth age in the central conferences. So in the West, it's 18 years old and below, between 12 and 18. Here is 12 to 24. Different context, different culture.
Yeah.
Worship. Our worship here is vibrant, is moving, is that kind of a way. It's expressing emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Worship in the US is a hair stuff. People think through it, think through God issue.
Yeah.
Is that emotional? Is one wrong and the other right? No. Let's take ordination. In the US, you require a master's degree in divinity or theology. Here in Liberia, it's a conference course of study that is required for ordination. Are we wrong? Are you right? is in context.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we put everything in context, then the whole idea of self-governing, self-determination sets in. And when there's self-determination, then there's a voice of the people that is heard, that what comes along with it. And when the voice is heard, things happen. I mean, we can talk about equity in light of that. When the voice is heard, a lot of things happen. So there is, we contextualize our own theology when in Africa. We talk much more about our culture and our context. When you see that when I'm thinking about what is going on, I don't want regionalization because of homosexuality. I want regionalization because it helps me. It helps Africa to raise up their own voices.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it helps us to define our context and look at our culture again and say, look, culturally, let's upgrade ourselves here. Let's do this. What is the context? Those are some of the things that I think about when we come to this place.
Gosh, Caleb, thanks for all of that. I think it's really helpful. And, we often hear about comparisons of the U.S. versus the U.S. context versus the African context. But Africa is an entire continent. And you all are not all of the same mind on the continent. So can you tell me a little bit of the diversity within the larger African context, like the ways that the context of Liberia may be different from the context of, say, the Congo? Can you give me a little bit of insight on that?
The context of Liberia. Let me say this. I know it's a continent, but there's so much we have together. There's so much. I think in some way, Liberia messed up some of the African thing up because of our own baggage, our own stuff that we bring along. Like I said, we were born out of the free slave movement in the US.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that we do that have destroyed our cultural values in Liberia. The rest of Africa hold dearly and tightly to culture. Culture is loose in Liberia. There are not many places in Africa that you will stand before an elder and tell him, you cannot do this. Or try to crowd an elder down. There are ways that we make our elders to apologize to us on the continent, but it has to be philosophical, soft, and let them come to that point and say, my son, I know what you're talking. I would not do it again. But you can't say, no, you are wrong. You are wrong. You shouldn't do that. Those ways don't work. But Liberia is much more on, quote unquote, what everybody calls human right. which for me, it has diluted our cultural values. These human rights issues will not work as much in other countries and other things because they hold dear to the cultural value. We hold dear to the teachings of the ancestors. We hold dear to our roots. What am I saying? My example in this comes like this. In the West, because of your salesmanship, because of your flamboyance, and I'm not saying it in a derogatory way.
No, you're just telling the truth. You're just telling the truth.
This is something in Africa, we protect the roots.
Mm-hmm.
But because of who you are, you like the flowers. It's the flowers you show to people because it will make money. Other people will see it and come after it, and you will sell it. You will do that. The roots, nobody sees it. And these are the things that we value. So I can say, no, this thing is deeply rooted in my family. I will not let it go. Take for the instance of land. It was because of the Western way of life that we sell land. Land belongs to a community. It belongs to a tribe. It belongs to a people. They don't sell it. Because on this land, my great-great-grandfather owned it. They were buried here. There's no way I can destroy my root by selling it. But hey, Westerner would say, look, wait a minute. You got all this land. You are poor. Why you don't sell some of it and then do this, that? So you see the flower, the commercial value is what they look for. How I can get it marketed. And that's not, there's hardly a way to market the roots when you hold dear to it like that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thanks for that context, Caleb. So helpful. I know that you are involved in some efforts to bring together United Methodists on the African continent so that the United Methodist witness continues there. And I know one of those efforts is the United Methodist Africa Forum. Can you tell me a little bit about how the Africa Forum started and what brings you to that work? What inspires you to do that work?
Sometime last year, I got infuriated with the message that the Africa Initiative and the Wesleyan Covenant were spreading all over Africa. Even though there was a voice of Africa by Andy Emmanuel and his group, I knew little about it. And then we started. I started some writings. I started propagating some things. And while we were on it, Albert Lauren somehow got one of those papers, and we started to talk. Then Lloyd got on. Then Gabriel from Zambia got on. And the four of us started to talk. I think we had our first meeting sometime in June via Zoom. And we started to talk about it. We started to invite other people on. And we found out that there are people across the continent with the same mindset. And we are sitting down far apart and allowing these Africa Initiative guys to tear us apart. And we started to come together. We started to talk about it. And we said, look, one day in November last year, we said, can we have an in-person meeting? And it was like an in-person meeting. Hey, we don't have money. Well, let's just plan. Then somebody said, 4 of us having an in-person meeting. What is that? They said, no, let's have an in-person meeting with delegates from the 3 central conferences. That's how we moved to that and had our first meeting in Johannesburg in April. The whole idea is the unity of the church. The ministry, we've been so much in ministry on this continent. We've done so much as a church on this continent. We need to maintain the unity of the church. There are too many things that has happened. And these people are using an example that is out of Africa as a context to take Africa from the United Methodist Church. And we are saying no. Everything you are saying, give us an example of it happening in Africa. It has not. We are a long way from it. More than that, the College of Bishops in Africa have said we stand with the Book of Discipline. Marriage is between a man and a wife. We don't condone same-sex marriage. They said that 3 times and they reaffirm it over and over. Liberia Annual Conference have said this 3 times and reaffirm it over and over. Where are we going? Look, I think the United Methodist Church in Liberia and in Africa is far stronger now than it was 3 years ago. We are coming together. And this is because UMEF have started a discussion with, as I think about UMEF, here is what it has done. I remember somewhere in the Bible, a prophet was supposed to do something and he said, you know, I want to do it, but I'm alone. And God said, you are not alone. There are a host of people with you. They're coming together, told us that there are a host of people with us longing for the unity of the church. And everything that will make the church to keep united, we need to do it. Should the people in the West say, we don't want to do anything with Africa, we need to disband the church in Africa because they practice polygamy? Who gave who the key to heaven on earth? That will sit in judgment over the next person. I am saying Scripture has its own, but how many of us follow Scripture to the fullest? Are the people who are leaving, do they not eat shrimps? Shrimps is forbidden. Don't they eat it? We all got our flaws. We all got our faults.
Yeah.
It's our flaws, our faults, our failures, and all of that, our diversity that we need to bring to the table, to God's table.
Yeah.
And it's at his table that he blesses all of this. It's at the table that we all found grace.
Yeah. Caleb, let me test a thought with you, and I just love to hear your honest response to it. But I wonder if we could remove language related to human sexuality from the Book of Discipline, would that then make our General Conference a space where it doesn't get brought up? It's not a conversation we need to have at the general church. Those are conversations we would have in our regions. Does that resonate with you? Or do you feel like the Book of Discipline needs to hold on to specific language around the Book of Discipline? I'm sorry, around human sexuality?
If when we meet at general conferences and if the general church is about mission and ministry, I think the general church needs to keep there. Can we empower the different regions to bring up their own discipline, where maybe we can have a judiciary council that can interpret it? Mm-hmm. But every region needs to form its own law, mm-hmm. and all of that. Where I feel comfortable with the removal, I keep telling people, those words have been there since the first General Conference in 1972. Mm-hmm. It tells me that this debate was there even before the United Methodist Church became the United Methodist Church.
Yes, definitely.
What if it had not gone there in the first General Conference? That's one question that I ask. Are we unbiblical when we keep it there? Are we less biblical when we take it out? I mean, all these questions come to me when we go this route with our debate. Mm-hmm. I think we just need to be sensitive to ourselves. We just need to be able to say to God, let your will be done. We just need to be able to let God be God in our midst.
Yeah. 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 Caleb, as we get ready for General Conference in 2024, there's so many things that are before the delegates there. What do you think the next General Conference needs to be about?
The next General Conference needs to be about word evangelism. The next General Conference needs to be about our mission and our ministry to the word. The next General Conference needs to be about how we reach out to the world to transform the world for Jesus Christ. When we sit and talk about little things like homosexuality and other things, I think we make General Conference like it is about us. We make General Conference to look like we are the purpose of General Conference. We need to look, I mean, General Conference should be in spite of us. Is there a word dying from hunger? Is there a word that needs medical help? Are little children dying from polio and something across the world? Is there a place? Are there people who have run from their homes and become refugees in a deserted place? What is the church witness in that kind of a thing? That, for me, what General Conference is supposed to be about. Empowering the different regions to be able to minister God's word through theory and practice among the least of our brothers, to be able to uplift those who are strong so that they can be strong enough to help those who can't help themselves. This is what General Conference should be about. Not about who we are, not about petty arguments like what should we do. I think General Conference should look more outside than inside. We have a word, and unless the United Methodist Church takes its cue from John Wesley, the word is my parish. Look, I'm a student of John Wesley. Look at his stewardship pattern. He never even had much for himself.
Yeah.
Everything went into evangelism and word outreach. But instead, we want to build our own kingdom. And because we want to build our own kingdom, we sit and fight over who should be heading this kingdom. That's all that we are doing.
Wow.
For me, General Conference is supposed to be about our mission and our ministry to the word.
Yeah.
Not about ourselves. What I think there has we somehow we need to write our laws, but can we leave it to the region to do it?
Right.
And
right.
And give the Judiciary Council the authority to deal with all of these laws that the regions are making.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, Caleb, that's so powerful. So do you have hope for the United Methodist Church worldwide?
I've been in a lot of conversation. And I got into this conversation at a time when I was feeling down. I was feeling down because there was so much said about a church that made me who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A church that gave me a name. By the way, it was a United Methodist missionary that named me Caleb. Yeah. I wish I could know if Uda is still living. She was a Swedish missionary, a nurse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This church gave me so much. But as I walk through Liberia and talk to people, I see hope. I see so much hope. I see hope in that this church needs to cultivate its resources in ways that it will put it into mission and ministry, developing both the human and other resources to put them behind mission and ministry. I see hope because at where I stand now, I think that being the oldest annual conference outside of the United Methodist Church, outside of the US, we in Liberia Annual Conference need now to sit down and say, how can we do this to send missionaries to the rest of Africa? I see hope. that we need to reevaluate all that we've been doing and rebrand the church in ways that evangelism will take priority, that evangelism and discipleship will take priority, that even in our mission schools, in our hospitals, chaplaincy and everything else will be so important that our doctors will come to know that it's not because of their skills and their knowledge that they are saving, it's because of God's saving grace that is working through them and using them as a channel. I see hope that in our classrooms, God is using teachers. I see hope. I'm so hopeful that God will reawaken evangelism through the United Methodist Church. Look, what I know about church planting is that these splits, these divisions, allow people to go to places where other churches don't go. And what I'm hopeful about it is that if some go, God will use them in ways and places that we have not been. I'm hopeful the United Methodist Church will get out of this stronger and bigger and more responsive to the people around them through the Word of God.
My goodness. Reverend Caleb Dormah, thank you so much for sharing your insight, your story, and really, I've already been on board with the future of the United Methodist Church, but this conversation has just added a lot more fire just to my passion for the UMC. So thank you so much for sharing today and being on the podcast, Caleb. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me. I'm just saying I am hopeful because I, who was never meant to be, I am today because the Methodist Church built a leprosarium that God used to take me from a nowhere to this place. There is hope, and will become better, bigger, and responsive to the Word through God's Word. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Caleb.
We hope you enjoyed the episode. Bar of the Conference is produced by the team at Wesley's Revival, a ministry of Studio Wesley. Subscribe to this show on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or Google platforms so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time.